measuring from where you are back 90 days or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From where you started. Thinking about that, it is a powerful concept to figure out how can you not live in that gap where it's more negative, and where can you try and focus backwards and really live in that gain.
Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing swell. What's going on? What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I have been listening to a book that I wanted to just run some concepts by for you. And I started listening to it. I think I texted you. I said, ooh, you have to listen to this. Or I told you.
What's the name of the book?
Oh, yeah, I could say that. So the name of the book is The Gap and the Gain, The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence, and Success. And it is by Dan Sullivan as well as Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
So I barely started listening to it, but
Okay.
I listened to enough to be like, yep, this is something I need to finish.
That we could have a conversation about
and
at least.
And I mentioned it to a couple people I was in a meeting with the other day. And they're like, oh, I'll have to look that up. And then they read the title and then like the second title. I can't never remember what that's called. And I'm like, yep. I'm like, that sounds exactly like what I need.
Well, and I mean, throughout the book, they talk about Seth Godin a couple times. They talk about
Greg McEwen,
and then they also talk about either it's a hell yeah or it's a no.
Derek Sivers.
Yeah,
he's
and
awesome.
They were quoting all these people and using examples from them, and I thought, okay, these are people that Keith just digs and loves, and it just aligns so much with it. So I thought it'd be fun to listen to and talk about.
You're going to have to do more of the heavy lifting because I'm not that far along, but I'm excited to maybe learn a little bit more and like think about it. So,
okay,
let's do it.
Sounds good. So the book is all based on a concept that Dan Sullivan discovered that I thought was incredibly simple, but then also powerful. So the idea is that we're all in our present state, and I'm just interpreting it the way that I heard it. So we're all in our current state, and there is a place where we started, and there is a place that we think is ideal that we're going to.
Yep. And
so we can do that with goals, particularly kind of what's your aim?
Yeah.
Right.
That's like literally like I think what I said to you when you said that. I'm like, oh, like what's my intention? Like where am I setting my focus? And you can do that in all the facets of your life, not just work, but like family and like all these things, right? Like wherever you need a goal, the whole point is like, where am I seeking to go?
Exactly. One of the concepts I thought was really powerful was that the goal that you have or the aim that you have, we so often have that be as the ideal, and thinking about where we're headed in an ideal, that can be really difficult sometimes because as you're going along working towards what you see as the ideal, it is so far over the horizon that it's sometimes really hard to even attain it the way that you think it perfectly could be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is getting into like perfectionism type stuff, and
right.
That's one of the things that can limit you from moving forward.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other thing that they said was it's some of it's that the other piece though is it's kind of like a horizon that as you move, the ideal keeps moving as well. And so it's like if I'm driving west and I'm trying to, well, that's a bad example. Let's say chase the sunset. Eventually the sun's probably going to go down, huh?
Faster than you can move.
Yeah, faster than I can move. Well, legally, right?
Much faster than you could ever possibly move unless you stole a rocket.
So let's not put the sunset into the equation, but the horizon, that you really never get to the horizon because as you keep going, the horizon is still in front of you, just like...
It's because we're on a sphere. It's not flat.
Right. But even if you like achieve your goal, so to speak,
Yeah.
there still is more to the ideal because you've changed, you've shaped, you've learned different things. And so there's still more to go.
So that sounds like continuing to move the goalpost, which I think could be good and bad.
Right.
So what are you actually trying to say?
So the thing I was excited about hearing or challenged to hear is that when you keep moving that goalpost, it can be incredibly difficult because you can feel deflated because you're never quite getting to where you want to be.
Right. Yeah. And that sounds like perfectionism to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the book, The Gap and the Gain, measuring forward to the ideal from where you currently are is called the gap.
Okay.
And so that's more of it's more difficult because it's hard.
You're focused on what you're lacking.
Correct.
Okay.
And what you haven't achieved yet.
Okay. And so the gain is the stuff you already did, but you're not really giving any attention to.
Right. So the gain is measuring from where you are back 90 days or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
From where you started. Thinking about that, it is a powerful concept to figure out how can you not live in that gap where it's more negative, and where can you try and focus backwards and really live in that gain. Because in the work that they're doing, they really say when you're living in the gain, you're happier, you are more successful, you get more done. There's just all these different positive things that come with measuring your attainment backwards.
I think I got to the point in the book early on. I think they quoted Greg McKeown. The thing that Greg McKeown says, if you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. And if you focus on what you have, you gain what you lack. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they quoted him on that. And that's what this sounds like. So, okay, now it's kind of clicking. Okay. Yeah. Because it's good to set your sights and aim at something. But probably the audience is kind of like me, where it's like, it still seems so far away that it's daunting. And
right.
it being in the present and reflecting back, that sounds like gratitude, being thankful for what I have and like how far I've come already. Because we talked about that recently too, and it's something I'm trying to get back into, is being like, okay, what am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? Helps kind of ground you in the present as well as reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Are you okay if I read just kind of two quotes here?
Yeah.
One thing just around the ideals or the goals. It says, ideals illuminate the path. The ideal is like the sun that illuminates the path ahead of you to give you the encouragement to take the necessary steps to reach your destination. And the other thing and this connects to it too, but the future isn't a reality, it's a projection. So, and because it's not reality, it can't be part of any real measurement of your progress. The only way to measure goals is backwards, against the past. Use the reality of where you currently are and measure backward from there to the reality of where you started.
Thinking of it as a projection is powerful for me. I like that.
Like future as a projection?
Yeah, like the ideal it's a projection, which means that there's wiggle room. There's possibility, but clinging to what you thought when you started is a fool's errand kind of thing, because with each iteration and each step that we take, we learn. So like the oppressiveness of clinging to an ideal is, the more I learn, maybe the better I want to be, and that could be limiting. It's also empowering to continue to learn and grow as you move through the process. And so the balance there is, at a certain point, you have to stop taking in and learning like I like to do.
Right.
And simply execute and see what happens. and then try again if it's necessary, but I'm sure different goals have different criteria, but trying to be the person that plants more seeds and takes on more projects, whether they fail or not, right? It's more about being active and generating more productivity, but not in an overbearing way. Because like what they're talking about is this ideal is something that you can get to a point where you'll say to yourself, it's never good enough because there's this ideal out there that I can't quite reach. And that's a stall tactic that I've used in the past. There's if you go too far one way, it's not helpful. If you go too far the other way, it's not helpful. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kind of keep talking about all the time, but it's never it's never really in balance, but you got to do the exercise of going in between. Bring it back, because this is all fairly new to me.
So one example that I'm thinking about, and I just want to kind of talk through it and work through it.
Yeah.
I also find it really powerful because I really like to look into the future of where we're going. I often will say, or you'll hear me say, what is future Laura doing? And what future Laura is doing is what I should start trying to put into my daily routine and build those habits now.
Right.
So one thing that future Laura, or I want future Laura to be doing, is to be able to figure out how to navigate stress without wine and popcorn. Right. Or whatever.
Popcorn's not that bad.
Well, no, whatever salty, crunchy.
The amount of butter that goes on the popcorn is...
No, but like whatever salty, crunchy, savory thing, right?
Yeah.
So I always imagine, okay, so future Laura, one thing she's doing, maybe she is, instead of having wine with, some crunchy snack when she's not hungry, right? Maybe instead she's reading a book and having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful for me to see that picture. But if I measure myself against that right now, I'd be like, gosh, I don't have wine and popcorn every night when I'm stressed. But I will say that I don't read a book and drink tea very often either. So if I was to say, where am I at right now? I'd be like, for that ideal, for that future state of me, I'm not doing great. However, if I look backwards, this past week, I did have a night where I came home and instead of having wine, I had tea. Mm-hmm. I finished a really great book and I listened to you and the boys play guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I did that and it was great.
Whereas like the ideal is like, I don't do that every night.
Exactly.
Because like while you were saying that, I'm like, you did. I remember you reading a book and I'm like, I looked over and I'm like, what are you drinking? And you're like, I got some tea. I'm like, oh.
Some mango tea. It's tasty. So, I mean, I think that idea of the future is that projection. I think that's good, but then it's bringing it back to doing the things, and instead of tracking my progress on how often do I do it towards the ideal, I really like that idea of saying, okay, looking back the last week, month, 2 months, how did I do? This is my intention.
I think we both think about the future, but you tend to be you tend to be able to switch to the actions that are going to get you to that future state, where I pontificate and ruminate. I think that's a little bit of the anxiety creeps in with me, whereas your go-to is, what are the steps I need to take to create that? And that it's rubbing off on me that, like asking myself, what can I do today to set up for a better tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Like that's what that sounds like, the tea and reading. And I've been asking myself that more and more again, thankfully. What does a good day look like? Is kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. But like you're really good at helping me say, okay, so you asked that question. Now, what are the actual tangible things that you're going to write down or say out loud? You just said, I want to drink tea and read more. Mm-hmm. Where I say, I want to be better. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I need to stop hiding from myself or the things that I say I want to do. And it's just, that's that funny little distinction between us is that we're thinking about similar things. It's just that you have this inclination to act, it's inspiring, and it's really good for me to have that example. But it's really come to light over the last couple weeks again that I haven't been taking action, and that's the easiest thing I can do. So like today, some things came up and they had to be acted upon. Had to fix the air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, while I'm waiting for that to thaw, went and mowed the lawn. That'll be helpful. I was just like, what can I do today that's going to be action? And it was really interesting because it's been a while since I've been in that state.
Yeah.
And it was different, but it was also familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the feeling at the end of a day of having done several things.
Well, and I think something you're touching upon that they talked about is that progress really needs to be concrete. And so looking back even at your day and the things you did, that's very concrete, right?
Yeah, I'm not great at that. That's what I probably need to be. I need to be more mindful of taking note of the things I accomplish.
Right.
Instead of just, I feel like I've said that before too, several times. I know you're aware that I'm just like, yeah, I did that. I'm done. What's next? Or what's not next? What can now I need to relax or something.
But I mean, completing things.
Oh, celebrating wins. That's what we were talking about. Yeah.
Right. But completing different things, that does really bring happiness and accomplishment.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
I think so. Possibly.
I don't know. What's the right answer?
So I think that's measuring backwards and measuring those wins and those accomplishments and that concrete completion of something does also create some of those endorphins and that flow of saying, wow, I did this.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what helps build momentum.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for, is getting that momentum back. Because right now, my inertia is a little more standing still than the inertia of something's really going to have to bump into me hard to slow me down. And I want to be that. I want to accidentally have you bump into me and almost send you flying and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was moving. I was on a mission. I was going and sorry,
Yeah.
Not in a mean way. I don't really want to knock anybody over, but I want the default to be I'm doing something, not I'm thinking about doing something.
Yeah. By using this sort of frame, it would be I did something instead of I'm thinking about doing something, because that's less concrete.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I probably need to work on, the self-deprecation and like the humbleness maybe. Like it's that tall poppy thing where it's like let myself stand out a little bit and not get in my own way.
Yeah.
Or not limit myself. It's not like I'm going to stand up and do something that somebody is going to say, no, you're wrong, sit down and be quiet.
Right.
And if somebody does, it's not for them, and there's other people I can be talking to or sharing the thing with, right?
Yeah. I have a concept I want to talk to you about. Something that was discussed in the book, but it's also something that my executive coach also works with me on. The idea is that when you're talking or starting a session or journaling, one tactic that you can use is to start by identifying wins in the last 2 weeks, month, 3 months, to really set you up for that flow. So I know when I meet with my executive coach, that's one of the first things that we talk about are what were your wins since the last time we met. Sometimes it's easier than other times.
That makes me giggle uncomfortably of like, I would have no idea what to say right now.
But what's interesting is when you frame it that way, sometimes I come to a meeting and I just think, gosh, what have I even done? I feel like I'm just spinning. I'm not sure if I'm making progress the way that I want. And by starting with that question, it makes me dig and go, actually, I did work through this big thing. I did have this really hard conversation that needed to be had, or I made progress on this project in these ways. And by the time I give 2 to 3 different big rock wins, I'm like, oh, okay, I have accomplished things. Everything that we're now going to talk about, that is typically how to navigate different things, how to really frame things differently so I can tackle them as a leader, all of those more challenging things that are more future focused. I've now been grounded in the idea and the proof that I can and have accomplished things. I didn't realize that was this technique, that is really looking back to be able to propel myself forward for continued movement and momentum.
On days where it's maybe not coming to you as freely and you kind of have to dig for them.
Sure.
Do you start with something small that's almost like laughable? Because I heard that from somebody, to get yourself going, like set a goal so small that if you said it to somebody, they'd laugh at you. Mm-hmm. And like they're like, that's a great place to start, because then you do another thing that's maybe a little more, I feel like that's kind of how I have to go sometimes if something doesn't really pop in my head. Like when you said that to me, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what I say. Like today I do, because I actually did something. But there's days where it's like, you come home and you're like, how was your day? I'm like, it's fine. Like, what'd you do? I'm like, I don't know. Because I'll be like, I did dishes, I did laundry. And I'm like, that's not good enough. There's that self-deprecation thing. It's like, no, it's important. I'm a very important part of this team.
You are.
Right? I mean, that's a Scrubs joke, but very important part of the team. And he's holding the person's foot during surgery.
Oh.
My point is being okay with not having a giant, audacious thing to say I accomplished. Maybe I took out the garbage. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds silly, but it's like, I did it. I didn't have to have you come home and say, why didn't you take out the garbage?
It's true.
Like, not that ever happens, but it can happen if in a relationship, if you continue to take liberties or not do something, like that happens. Anyway, not trying to go there. Yeah. Say something.
Okay, so I'm gonna challenge you a little bit here. Maybe.
I don't like that.
I know. I want you to answer the question, thinking back over the last week, what were some of your wins?
I think I fixed the air conditioner.
Okay.
That was today.
Yeah.
I mowed the lawn.
Okay.
Which I do not like doing. And other than that, I would have a hard time thinking of something. I would have to look at my calendar.
Okay, so I'm going to shift it just a little bit. So those are important. Let's shift
I just thought of something.
Our project together.
Yeah.
And to the podcast, right? Because those are connected. What over the last month? What are some wins over the last month related to our project and or the podcast?
It continues to go out on time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the weeks, I think I spent maybe 3 or 4 hours editing only, instead of 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big win. I forgot about that.
It's a huge win.
Yeah. And I think in general, I've loosened up around that. Yeah, that's hilarious. You tricked me into proving your point about the ideal and looking back. That's funny. I have an ideal in my head when it comes to anything I do. You know this. You're smiling so big right now.
I know.
And so letting go of that ideal so that I can ship the podcast over the last month. And one of those included re-releasing something that I kind of remixed it, and I added I got to go over it with more of fine-tooth comb and cut out some things that I was probably rushed last time and I left in, that I'm like, this doesn't really add to what we're actually talking about. It's just Keith rambling. And I could cut that out and I could release it as a ramble at the end of an episode or something. I was like, why is this still in here? So I've continued to refine my process, as well as maybe loosen up a little bit, which is still hard, but yeah, maybe that's it. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Is it what I wanted to hear?
Do I get a gold star?
You get a gold star, honey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but
yeah, that was really helpful. Actually, you're funny.
Well, it's unless somebody asks the question, it can be really hard to ask it yourself. And in the book, they talked about really doing kind of an evening routine. And you've talked about doing that sometimes. I've never gotten into an evening routine, partially because I power down.
You fall right asleep.
I fall right asleep. I just power down at like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And so that hasn't been something that I've done, but it doesn't mean it's not something that maybe I should think about doing.
I wind down at night and I really need to wind up in the morning. And you are just like a switch on both ends of the day. That's really kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
You're right. In the morning, I jump out of bed and like say, good morning,
and
son.
You're going. And then at night, you're like, I'm going
Power
to bed.
You down.
Yeah. Watching you pretend to be awake. And I'm like, just go to bed.
I'm awake. What?
Yeah. I think we could both benefit from introducing the way each other operate into our routines.
Mm-hmm.
Because I already said it, like I want to be a little more action oriented, and that's what you are as a default. And it sounds like you want to think about, how do I have this wind down routine, because you do have a morning routine. It's just,
I do.
Bell goes off and you're going.
Yeah.
What were you talking about, that routine?
The evening routine?
Yeah.
Well, because it's a way to incorporate it into your day, to reflect on the day of what you accomplished or what your wins were. It's almost kind of like a way to continually live in that gain every day by saying, okay, as I'm going to bed or getting ready for bed, these are the things that I'm going to look back on that I have accomplished throughout the day. That way, when you wake up, you're not necessarily thinking, oh gosh, I have all these things and I never get them done, because you just spent the evening in your evening routine of saying, here's what I accomplished. So you're continuing to somewhat prove to yourself that you can accomplish and move towards accomplishing your goals, that you've had successes.
Yeah. Do you do that at work when you're leaving the office for the day? Do you reflect on what you checked off and what you have to come back to? Because I used to do that leaving work, because I always was like, okay, this is where I'm at. I know what I did today, but what do I still have left? That was a big part of my routine, taking like 5 minutes just to like get my thoughts in order of like, okay, what am I coming back to tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't, but that would be a good thing to do. I haven't done this recently, but I have sometimes, like on a Friday morning, like an hour journaling about things that I've learned throughout the week.
Oh, yeah.
That's been helpful. Again, I haven't done that recently, but that has been helpful to just say, okay, Friday morning, 7 to 8, I'm just going to journal about, what lessons have I learned this week? Just the purposeful reflection.
I've been writing, try to be in the mornings, but at least daily. It tends to be like, this is what I did yesterday, and this is what I'm looking to do today, or what I've already done today, and what I'm looking to like this evening, maybe, depending on what time I'm writing it. But that looking back at the beginning is new for me. Kind of interesting that you brought this book up, because I've been doing it since before you brought this book up, and it's doing what they're talking about. It's helping kind of bolster me and help me be aware. Yeah. That's what comes to mind when I hear this, is like, I talk about awareness, and it's like, okay, I think I tend to think I need to be aware of what's going on around me. It's like, well, I need to be aware of what's going on inside of me too. And maybe like the projects I'm working on, and yeah, where am I at? But where did I start? Look how far I am now. And sometimes it's going to be, for me, like, dude, you started 3 feet behind you and you're only 3 feet in front of you where you started. Like, come on, let's have a little heart to heart here, and like, let's get something done, like, that's okay too. That's for me, probably a very important part of the process, which is getting real with myself and saying like, all right, you said you wanted to do this project, start taking steps to make it happen.
Yeah.
So that reflection I'm noticing it just in like little anecdotal ways like that. So if I actually make it part of my process a little more intentionally, be pretty good thing.
Would be good. Okay, maybe the last thing that I just want to highlight, and there's so much more in the book, so I would recommend people giving it a listen or a read. I'll probably read it again because it's dense, but I will say the Audible version I really enjoyed because they read a chapter and then they did kind of an interview back and forth between
the authors.
Yeah, between the authors to really bring
I got to
the method to life, right?
I think that's about as far as I got. It was all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they're having a conversation. I'm like, oh, I like it because to me it started feeling like a podcast, and I was like, oh, I like this.
And it kind of was because it was okay. I just finished reading chapter 1, talking about this. Let's talk about your experience.
Oh, cool.
In your career of building this, and so it really was then like a podcast, or it was just good. But the other theme that I found interesting was around how often, no matter what we do, we are going to live in the gap sometimes. And so part of the trick is figuring out and noticing when we're in the gap, either with ourselves or with someone else. They use several examples around being in the gap with other people, specifically around kids, and really being in that gap when they aren't doing something you think they should be doing or doing it the way that it should be done. You're laughing over there.
This is because I'm a dad.
You are, I know.
I'm such a dad.
But
why don't you do it this way?
Why don't you do it this way? And so, I mean, an example that, and granted, I had just been listening to the book, right? But this weekend, so we had a Packer party and we're cleaning things up Sunday morning. Child 1 and child 2 were just kind of nowhere to be found. And typically you and I do a lot of the cleaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, okay, I need to get their help. I need child 2 to kind of pick up his guitar stuff. It's all over the living room, which I love his jam sessions, but just organize a little bit.
Yep.
So there's some more seating. And child 1 came out and was kind of milling around. And I said, hey, can you help me clean something? Maybe either the bathroom or vacuum. And he goes, I'll do the bathroom. I'm like, all right.
Sweet.
Right?
Win.
I know, win.
He'll learn to regret that because that's his job now.
I know. But I let him do it. And there's halfway through the party, I thought,
you didn't check?
Oh, no, I didn't check because normally I check.
I didn't even think of that.
Normally I check. He did a pretty good job. When I finally, I will say your mom used it. I was like, oh, I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they found the Windex and they used Windex on the mirror. They wiped on the counter. They made sure that there was soap. They cleaned the toilet. They took out the garbage. And so I was sitting there and thinking, gosh, not very long ago, either he wouldn't help or they wouldn't help. Or they wouldn't know how to do these things, so I would have to kind of stand and coach them through it. Or they were making the bathroom even messier, so it required more frequent cleaning.
Yeah.
And so when I look backwards, I think, gosh, we came a lot away from, I always joke when they were younger in particular, that our bathroom smelled kind of like a Subway.
Yeah.
Right? Like just kind of smell and urine, but...
They had bad aim.
Yeah, they did have bad aim. But thinking about where they are now, it's pretty good. I mean, could it be cleaner than it was? Yeah. But was it pretty great how far he came from where it was even just 2 years ago? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that when we were talking about that gain thinking is that, but I know that gap thinking is so easily done. Especially when you're thinking about other people, it's hard sometimes to go back and think, oh, look what they've learned. Look where they came from. There are wins here.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what in ourselves, like being hard on ourselves is one thing. But then when you think about it's our job to prepare them to be able to be self-sufficient and go out and learn even more without us in the world, that gap between where we think they ought to be so that we don't have to worry kind of thing when they're out on their own. Like, I think that if you're not aware, if you're not thinking that, then I could turn into like crabby dad and be short and why don't you do it right and do this? And it's like if I didn't take the time to realize like, oh, that's coming from a place of I simply want you to be able to do this. I don't need to be cranky about it. I simply just like, hey, these are skills you need to have, and it's my job to make sure that you find a way to learn them. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to be cranky about it, I need to find a better way to help them get those.
Well, and even thinking about, because some of that, to use your word, kind of cranky dad.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that probably does come from, they made a really convincing argument that a lot of that being frustrated or cranky often comes from that you want what they're doing to be better because either you've told them before, you're trying to teach them, they're just not getting it. Why can't they do it this way? Because this is the way it's supposed to be. They know this. Instead of saying, wow, if I look back, they're doing it, they're trying, they're learning, they still need to keep practicing it, but they're doing it. And then I can give them like how, I can support them in learning that. It's just a shift.
I'm excited to get to that part. That'll be good.
Yeah, it was really good. And he talks a lot about his own experience with his kids. It made me think that it's not necessarily just about being patient. It's really about helping frame something for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? Even just thinking, this is silly, but sometimes we'll be sitting at the dinner table and one of the kids might spill something or almost spill something or get their hair in their spaghetti sauce or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I know sometimes I sense from you like, really, guys?
Yeah.
Like, really? But think about it. If you were to look back 10 years, what did supper look like at our house?
Basically, like plastic under the table so it would catch everything, right? That's what it felt like we had to do, but we didn't. But yeah.
Spilled glasses of milk, spaghetti sauce.
Twice in a row. I just refilled it. I just refilled that glass. Right. I didn't, and not filled
Carrots
either.
all over their faces.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you think about whoa, how far have they come?
Right. I get you.
It's kind of an interesting thought exercise, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like that a lot. It puts you in probably a better frame of mind when you're approaching what's ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I like it.
Me too. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I'll catch up. I didn't have a whole lot of time to listen to anything over the last couple days.
As I was Packer party prepping. Yep, that works.
Fun. All right, well, let's wrap it up, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have any recommendations besides this book?
You go first.
I recommend that people check their furnace filter monthly or whatever is recommended by their filter so that their air conditioning continues to operate, even though we're going into winter in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm still feeling a little sheepish about forgetting to change it. So remember to do that. I recommend it highly. That's what I got right now.
That is an oddly specific recommendation.
So far, I fixed it. So anyway, that and I don't know, practice some gratitude journaling. I don't know. It's something I got to keep doing. How about you?
I guess my recommendation. So obviously this book, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. The other thing that I would recommend as well that I'm really enjoying is This is the Story of a Happy Marriage by Ann Patchett.
Oh, that's right. You told me that you found it in the library, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it is really good. I will admit, when I saw how many hours it was on Audible, I thought, oof, I don't know, but I'm going to see. I haven't read any of her, and I haven't read any of her things before, actually. but it's really, really good.
It's a good listen.
And she reads it.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend that. I'm getting almost to the very, very end. So I'm digging it. Yeah.
All right. Let's get out of here.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Interesting.
The thing that really made me think, which I like the things that make me think. What?
You think the things?
I think the things. No, but things that open up my mind and go, oh, those are the things I like to talk to you about. Because, sorry, were you going to?
It sounds like when I get the vocabulary from somebody that allows me to say something that I've maybe felt or thought, but I didn't have the right words to express it out loud. That's what it sounds like. You like, oh, they said something that gave me the words to say the thing I've been thinking. Like that's what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just said it a little different. So, I love that.